Hey kids, it's the Biston Flyer here. Hope you're well. Now, I'm always going on, or I have been banging on for the last 3.5 years about how much I love the GS, and I absolutely do. It's a fantastic bike, really do love it overall. However, all is not a bed of roses in the GS garden, and there are a few things over that period of time that have started to annoy me. So this video is my top 10 things that I hate about the BMW R1200GS. So, number 10 on my list then, and these aren't necessarily all in exactly the right order, but you'll get the general idea. Number 10 is the noise that the bike makes. It's not very inspiring. I do love the boxer engine, the low centre of gravity is great, but it doesn't make a very inspiring noise, even with an aftermarket exhaust. I've got the arrow cans on here, and it just sort of farts its way along really. It's not offensive or anything, but it's not that great either. In fact, I've even thought about putting the original exhaust back on the bike, but of course that robs it of a little bit of power, and I'd rather have the extra power and put up with not a brilliant louder noise. The original exhaust that comes on is just quiet, it's inoffensive, but you can't hear it at all. So number 10 on my list, not a big deal, but I don't think the engine makes a very good noise. So number 9 on the list then is the weight of the bike. It is a big old heavy bike. Now there are bikes that are much heavier, but I generally speaking like lightweight bikes. So the weight of this thing at 238 kilograms, which I think is wet actually, which is quite good, is on the lardy side. So that's a negative as far as I'm concerned. Once you're moving on the bike you don't notice the weight, but moving it around on a gravel driveway, flipping hard work. So I could ideally do with a lighter weight bike. So to number 8 then on my top 10 things I hate about the BMW GS. Number 8 is the height of the bike. Why do they design bikes made for Dutch people? They just don't seem to take into account the average stumpy middle-aged short fat English bloke when they're making these. I can't remember what the number is for the standard GS height, but it's tippy toes only when I'm on the bike, and that's not good if you've got a big load up with top boxes and panniers on, or even a pillion. That's not great. So I fitted the lower seat, and that fixes that problem, but in hindsight I think I probably should have gone for the bike with the lowered suspension. But BMW, the GS isn't the only bike that suffers from that. Many of these adventure bikes are really tall, and I guess they're looking at average heights of people across markets, but it doesn't work if you're on the shorter end of the scale. I'm 5'8" and I struggle with these big adventure bikes. Number 7 on the list then. Number 7 is one I've mentioned before in previous videos, and it's the image of the bike. For some reason, these bikes are regarded as old man's bikes, or bikes for people that have checked out of motorcycling, almost as bad as having a Harley Davidson. We're talking that end of the scale. Now personally, I like all bikes, so including Harley Davidson, so I have no problem with that. I wave at people on scooters and everything else. So I don't understand that attitude. I think there might be a bit of jealousy in it, I'm not sure. Or those people that just say GSs are rubbish obviously have never ridden one, because they absolutely aren't rubbish. But the image thing itself is a bit of a pain. Not a big deal, but it's there on the list nonetheless. So to number 6 on the list then, and again it's something I've mentioned before, and it's probably only me that has this particular problem. Number 6 on the things I hate about the GS is actually the engine modes. When the bike came out, there's much song and dance made about the different engine modes that you can have on this ride-by-wire bike. You've got dynamic and rain mode and road mode, and you've got enduro and enduro pro, which is plenty of riding modes, but and I've tried them all. But the thing is, I can notice pretty much no difference between any of them. Now, it might be different when you're riding off-road, and I'll never take the big GS off-road because I'll just drop it because of its weight and height, as I mentioned before. But I just don't find the riding modes they make that much difference. I just got it set in dynamic. If it's dry, I leave it at that, and frankly I switch it to rain if it's wet, but it just doesn't seem to make that much difference. It might be marginal, but that's just it. It is just marginal. So the engine modes, I don't rate them much. I've got engine modes on some of my other bikes, and they do make a bit more of a difference, so I don't think they're that great on the GS. So that's number 6 on the list. So to number 5 then of my top 10 hates on the BMW GS, and I'm not even going to show you a picture of this because it's such a pain, this thing. It's the passenger seat. to actually remove and refit it. Removing it, piece of cake. Putting it back on in the forward position, it's a two-position seat, you can have it either slightly forward or back. But to put it back in on the forward position is a right old faff. There is a technique to it, but even then, it's difficult. So you could say, well, why not just leave it on the aft position then? Well, the problem is in the aft position, it leaves a gap between the passenger seat and the rider's seat, and it just looks a bit rubbish. So it has to go on the front. But if ever I need to take the passenger seat off, I'm always cursing in the back of my mind because I know what a pain it's going to be to get the seat back on again. So that's number 5 on my top 10 hate list for the GS. So to number 4 on the list, and that's quite an easy one. Getting to the more serious things now, and that's the clunky gearbox on the machine. Now I've got the quick shift assist pro fitted on here, the BMW quick shifter, and that is okay. It works all right, but it's nowhere near as smooth as other quick shifters I've got. And the gearbox generally, if you just use it, is pretty clunky and agricultural. Now I have had worse. Back on my old Triumph Tiger 1050 I had, that was a very agricultural gearbox. I often used to get false neutrals and all sorts, or struggle to get it into first gear. I don't have so much of that problem on the GS, it's not that bad. Oh, hello sir, Suzuki perchance. So yeah, so it's nowhere near as bad as the old Tiger was, but nonetheless, it is just a bit clunky. When you select first, when you're at a junction say and you're ready to move off, it makes a right old clunk and the bike sort of lurches forward a bit. And then again, if you're not really careful with the clutch on general shifts, it can make a right old clunk when you change cogs. So the gearbox, I think, for a modern premium bike could be much, much better. Oh, hello, look at this. Oh. So I've gone a bit light-headed. Okay, so we're getting to the more serious dislikes now on the GS, and I'm at number 3 on my top 10 dislikes. And as I said, these aren't necessarily in preference order, although I've tried to make them so, but you could argue about the top 3. But anyway, number 3, what I've gone for is the cost. The cost of the bike to purchase, the cost of the bike to run. It is a premium bike, it's got lots of features, electronic gizmos and all the rest of it, but very, very expensive. When I totted up the total cost of this machine, the extras I've put on it and for the spec that I've got, it worked out at £18,000 for a motorcycle. Now you can get a pretty good car for that. Okay, maybe not a brand new one, but a good second-hand car for sure. And I think the first flat I ever bought was not much off that. So yeah, very, very expensive, as is servicing if you go to main dealers and so on, which you sort of have to maintain the warranty to start with. So yeah, an expensive old bike to run. So to number 2 on my GS hate list. Number 2, and this is particularly pertinent for me because I'm a bit anal about keeping my bikes nice and clean. This bike is no doubt the worst bike I've ever had for keeping clean. As somebody commented to me the other day, they seem to like throwing mud over themselves, and I completely agree. You only have to go out on a slightly damp day, and when you get back, the bike is absolutely covered in stuff. Now I've got various mud catchers and huggers and all sorts on the bike, but you still just can't keep them clean. And then when you do come to clean it, it's because of all the scaffolding and so on and the complex engine crevices and what have you, it's an absolute nightmare to clean. So you know, put yourself a morning or an afternoon aside if you want to give the GS a clean, because that's how long it's going to take you. So that makes number 2 on my list. May or may not be a big deal for you, but it's a big deal for me. Okay, cue the drum roll because it's time for my number 1 hate of the BMW R1200GS. This may seem like a minor thing, but it's the thing that's probably wound me up most about the bike since I've had it, and that is this, the Speedo. Now, the Speedo on the thing is basically illegible when you're riding. I've had to get around this by doing 2 things. One, buying the fabulous Navigator 5 GS, which I've talked about, GPS, which I've talked about before, which is just a fantastic piece of kit. And on that you can display the speed that you're doing, so it gets around the Speedo issue, but it costs you £600 in that optional extra in order to do it. And then the other thing I've done to get around it, as you can see on my little graphic, is I've had to put stickers on the Speedo that make it a abundantly clear when I'm at favourite speed limit points, so 30, 60 and 70 miles an hour. I've had to put little white bits of paper, so when I have a casual glance, if I haven't got the sat-nav set to Speedo mode, I can see roughly what speed I'm doing. Again, you can display the speed digitally on the LCD part of the display, but that's not very clear either. So BMW really got the display wrong on the GS. On later bikes, they've actually done it much better. So it's just a temporary thing. But if you've got bad eyesight and you're thinking about getting a GS, just bear in mind that that's one of the things you're going to have to work around. So there we have it, folks. That's my top 10 things I hate most about the BMW R1200GS. I'll stick a little summary list at the end of the video if you've forgotten the ordering I've got or had. I'll be interested. Let's just overtake him. I'll be interested to hear if there's anything that really winds you up about the bike that I've missed. But I think I've probably covered the main areas. But let me know if you disagree or agree. Be very interested to hear. Okay, look forward to speaking to you next time. Until then, this has been the Missenden Flyer. Cheerio. Well, that's the sort of cyclist you want. Hello. Interesting. I don't know. Things you see when you're out on your bike, eh?